Hi there, I'm Nancy Nash with Starfish Strength, and today I want to give you a 3-move warm-up you can do with limited time, space, and equipment. All you'll need today is enough space on the floor to make a snow angel, a mat or towel to lay underneath your body, and for a little extra support, we're going to use the help of either a bolster, a large pillow, or a fun character pillow if you have one. For our first warm-up move, I'm going to come into a half kneeling position on my cushion, and if it's comfortable for me, I'm actually going to place the hands on the floor. I'm not going to have you come down to the elbows, even if you're really flexible, just because we do want some space for the hips to move. I'm going to shift my hips forward and back. If you're not comfortable putting your hands on the floor, you can do this half kneeling version with me. I'm stretching the thighs and the hips kind of simultaneously here. I'm also thinking about just slightly drawing the belly button in as I shift forward and back. So I should feel this in the front of my thighs, I should feel it in the front of my hips, and on my front leg, I should also feel it on the inner thigh. So after you've done about 10 of those, we're gonna go ahead and switch sides. Let yourself find that half kneeling position first, and then kind of see how flexible this hip feels. If you feel flexible enough, go ahead and bring your hands down on the ground right next to your foot. And then again, we're gonna shift the hips forward and back. So you can see as my hips shift back, I get a really good stretch on the hamstrings in the back of my thigh. And then as my hips shift forward, I should feel that quite a bit in the front of both hips and thighs. And if you find it's better to do the half kneeling version on this side, go ahead and do that. So remembering that I'm drawing the belly button in and then shifting the hips forward together so that I get a really good stretch in the front of the hip and the front of the thighs. And just depending on the day, you might find that one version feels better than another, depending on where your hips are tight. And if you need a little more stability, feel free to put both hands on that front thigh. So after you've done about 10 of those, we're going to go ahead and switch sides. So go ahead and find your position. Hopefully it feels just a little bit more flexible this time. So I've got one knee positioned on my pillow or cushion. I'm going to draw the belly button in and shift the hips forward and back. So if you've got the chest lifted, really trying to keep the shoulders over the hips so that I really get that good stretch in the front of the hips and the front of the thighs. Trying to remember to shift my hips forward and back together so that I'm not cheating that stretch at all. And then I get that really good inner thigh stretch. And then if it feels really flexible this time, you could try the version bring your hands down to the ground. I'm not putting a whole lot of body weight into my hands as I do this. I'm really just using this to get a little more flexibility in the hips by getting my upper body a little lower to the ground. So still shifting my hips forward and back together. And then as I push the hips back, I'm gonna get that really good stretch in the back of the thigh. So once you've done about 10, go ahead and let yourself switch sides. So I'm drawing my belly button in, shifting the hips forward together, pushing forward and back evenly, trying to really stretch front and back, and try not to shift the hips too far left to right so that I really try to evenly stretch things out. So as I push back, I'm using the foot to help me do that, and I'm also using the glutes. So hopefully you can feel those warming up too. And then as much as I can, I'm lining up the hip, knee, and ankle kind of in a nice straight line so that I get a good inner thigh stretch here as well. And then if it feels good to do that version on the hands, go ahead and do that. So you can see my hands serve as more of a guide here, just to help me evenly shift my hips forward and back so I still get a really good stretch in the back of the thigh. All right, nice work. So I hope your hips are feeling really warmed up. Next, I'm gonna lay all the way down onto my side, and I'm gonna use that pillow or cushion to support my top leg. I'm gonna bend it about 90 degrees, and I wanna support myself from knee to ankle. So if you have a smaller pillow, that's totally fine. And then with my upper body, I'm gonna actually do a windmill. So I'm gonna make a circle with that top arm. Now, when I do that, I wanna make sure that I'm not just reaching back with the hand. I'm really turning with the torso. So I'm following the fingers with my eyes, even if that's a small circle, even if I can't turn back that far, I should start feeling this not only in the shoulder and chest, but also in the abs, maybe in that top hip as well. And you can take this slower than I am. In fact, I might recommend that the first time round because this might be a little tighter than you think. Once you've done about 10 of those, we're gonna switch and do that on the other side. So I wanna position my leg again so that the knee's about 90 degrees and then I've got support for the knee down to the ankle. So go ahead and let yourself do that reach forward, feel that stretch in the back of the shoulder, reaching overhead, getting a really good stretch down the torso and maybe into the hip as well. And then as you turn back and follow that hand with the eyes, that's when you should start feeling that really good front of the shoulder stretch down the front of the arm. And you'll probably also feel a stretch a bit into your abs or even into that top hip. So give yourself some nice slow circles there in the beginning. And again, we're going for that 7 out of 10 stretch feeling. I'm not trying to just jerk the muscles into submission. I am trying to just gently warm them up. And it's quite likely that you're going to be very comfortable rotating in one direction and not so comfortable rotating in the other. So when you do find your tighter side, just be a little patient with it. Just take your time, go through this at the pace you need to so that you're feeling great later. Nice job. Let yourself try one more round and then we're gonna move on. So we're gonna go through that floor windmill one more time. This time, if you want, you can also take that arm that's underneath you, take it behind the head just to support it a little bit more. Now that you know that the eyes need to follow the hand, if you need to use that other hand as a little bit of an assist, you can. We don't wanna bring any undue stress to the neck or the front of the shoulder. Again, if you start to feel just really tense there, just make this a little bit smaller circle. Maybe don't reach quite as high, don't reach quite as far back. Remember, this is a warm up. This is getting us ready for the movements of our life the rest of the day, for the movements of our workout. So we're not trying to strain the muscles. We're just trying to get that 7 out of 10 stretch feeling. So take your time. You can make these circles as slow as you need to. You can do fewer of them. This really is a great mobility stretch for your workout, after your workout, even at the end of the day as a cool down. So just kind of explore over time. You will see that your mobility improves. All right, so we're gonna try that floor windmill stretch one more time. And then this time, if you want to put the hand under the head to support it, you can absolutely do that. So I'm gonna take that top arm, reach it forward, get a really good stretch in the back of the shoulder, let my torso rotate forward, reach overhead, get a really good stretch in the side of the body, and then remember to follow that hand with the eyes as I rotate back and get a really good stretch to open the chest and hopefully feel that in that top hip as well. Remembering that that turn should really come from the center of the spine, the thoracic spine, the middle of your body. I want to make sure that I really get the full benefit of that range of motions. Going through this a second time, you might find that you can actually turn through your torso just a little bit easier and reach just a little bit further back. So let yourself try one more wherever you're at, and then we're going to move on. Great job. So lastly, we're gonna do some side leg lifts. So you can either use your cushion underneath your head, or you could just use a hand to support yourself. I'm gonna start by just making sure that my hips are stacked. I've got the top hip just slightly rolled forward because it's gonna wanna roll back, and I don't wanna let it, so that I really get some good activation on the outside of the hip. And then I also wanna make sure that both of my feet are facing straight forward. So with that alignment in place, I'm gonna pull the abs in, lift the leg, and tap the foot to the front, lift the leg, and tap the foot to the back. So I'm trying to keep my legs as straight as I can. And then again, I'm trying to keep my toes pointed straight forward in the same direction as my nose. So the reason for that is that you should really feel this quite a bit on the outside of the thighs, inner thighs. These are areas that get really tight when we sit, but areas that we really need when we're going to be active and moving around. Even if you're just running in a straight line, guaranteed you're having to stabilize yourself side to side. So it's really important for these muscles to be strong and flexible. Now, this is a much more demanding exercise than it looks. So give yourself 5 in each direction and just see how you feel. And then go ahead and go to the second side. Make sure both legs are up for this before you add in more reps. So going into my second side, again, I want to draw the belly button in. Just make sure that top hip is turned slightly forward and I keep my toes facing nice and straight. I'm going to try to keep the legs as straight as possible. Now you may find that this is just a little lift for you on one side. Either the hip feels really tight or it just doesn't feel like it can lift that high. That is totally fine. Just try to keep it as even as you can, left to right. Notice which side is more difficult for you. This is kind of a good thing to have in your mental notes too, as you go into something like a squat, where you really are using the inner and outer thighs, whether or not you realize it. You may actually find that you shift a little bit to one side in your squat. You shift to either your stronger side or your tighter side. So this is a great exercise to add in as an accessory to make sure less of that is happening and you feel really great coming out of your workouts. All right, so repeating this one more time, you probably know which leg feels a little bit stronger doing these side leg lifts. Just try to get about an even number on each side. Don't let that dominant leg outpace the less dominant one. So I'm going to draw my belly button in. Remember, keep my toes pointed straight forward. Lift the leg, try to keep both legs straight, tap that foot to the front, and you don't necessarily have to touch down. In fact, it's a little bit harder to just let it hover right above the ground and then lift it back up. This is no joke. This is something that I add into my actual workouts. I know we're doing it as a warm-up, but feel free to take any of these exercises and add them into your workout routine. All of them bring strength and flexibility, and we really need that happy balance in order to have good mobility and do the things that we want to keep doing. All right, so I hope your butt is on fire. I hope your inner thighs are on fire. Give yourself one more in each direction wherever you're at, and then we're going to turn over and switch sides. All right, so we're going to do that side leg lift on the second side one more time. So drawing the belly button in, and this time you might even be able to kind of feel the butt muscles. Give yourself a little squeeze there so that as you raise the leg, you really feel like it's more powerful than it was the first time around. I hope so. You might find that your booty's on fire after this, but we all need those muscles. They really help us balance. They help us do all sorts of movements all throughout the day. So definitely training them to get a little bit stronger. You're not going to go wrong. Nice job keeping the toes nice and straight, keeping the legs nice and straight. Give yourself one or two more wherever you're at. Great work. Thanks so much for working out with me today. I hope you found something that you can take into your workout routine, into your daily routine to help you feel flexible and strong every day. If you want more personalized support, reach out to me through my application link for a one-on-one consultation. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next video.